She's okay now. Why is she in a guardianship? They're not meant to be for the rest of your life if somebody gets better. And she's better. They're not doctors, and they barely talk to her. So how do they reach that conclusion unless that's the conclusion they want?
Big Boys Neighborhood, beautiful day in the neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen. Back in the neighborhood once again. Harvey Levin, welcome back to the neighborhood, man. TMZ, let me tell you, Harvey, with this Wendy one, you guys have outdone yourself with this one, bro. First off, what is the title for this one?
It's simple. Saving Wendy.
Man.
Saving Wendy. And I'll tell you, I think she needs to be saved. That's my opinion.
Yeah, man. You know, one thing that we've seen years in the past was like, oh, Wendy needs help. Wendy can't help herself out. Especially the documentary that we saw. Oh, this is so bad for Wendy. But now when I saw what's going on with Wendy today, it feels, Harvey, like we're dealing with a different Wendy Williams, man.
So let me kind of explain that, because you're right that a few years ago, Wendy was off the rails, deep into alcohol. And when you watch that Lifetime documentary, I think it was pretty clear she needed a guardian back then because she could not take care of herself. So fast forward to like more than 2 years later, almost 3, Wendy Williams is now confined to an assisted living facility in New York. She cannot leave without somebody allowing her. She has no access. People can't come in. You'll hear that in this documentary.
And speaking of hearing that, I want to play something right now that kind of not even sums up, but it gives you kind of a real deep look inside of what's going on with Wendy Williams.
Tell me what your life has been like over the past year. What is it like?
Isolated. Where I am is this place where the people are older, you know what I'm saying? They are in their 90s and their 80s. I eat lunch and dinner in my bedroom. I don't eat out there with the people that live here just because it's so goddamn depressing. There's a bathroom, there's a closet, and the TV.
And you know what's wild about that, Harvey, is when she described that it's almost like just living in a hotel or a motel room. You're not thinking about this lavish condo and, this is Wendy Williams. It's almost like she's in placement, like in an elderly home.
It is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And it is a room. It's like a hotel room. She cannot go out. She's had fresh air, big boy, twice in the last 30 days.
And you covered that with her.
Me through the guardian person.
Are you allowed to go out?
Listen to this.
No, I am not allowed to go out. I can call you, but you can't call me.
What about communications? Do you have an iPad or some form of a computer?
Basic things, man.
I have not. Listen, I've asked the guardian person for an iPad since years, it seems like, but an iPad. Can I please have my telephone back? Can I please be able to call, my family? What is the problem with me calling and talking to friends of mine? They're not allowed to come in here, friends of mine. You know what I'm saying?
Over the last, say, 30 days, how much time have you been able to spend outside in the fresh air?
And she answers here.
In the last 30 days, I went out twice for my teeth. You know what I'm saying? And that would be that.
Wendy, I gotta say, even people who are in prison for murder get an hour a day outside, and you've only been outside in fresh air twice in the last 30 days?
Harvey, that seems so hard to believe, bro. Like, it is devastating. And for those who haven't had a chance, and I don't want to give away too much, but literally the interview starts where you see Wendy and she's in a window in the facility, and she's even telling like, oh, you guys, the cameras are pointed at the wrong window. She's actually doing the interview.
Well, you know why? Because she's not allowed to sit with us. I can't go in there. She can't come out and do an interview with me. So what we did was we got a camera on the street and shot up 5 floors, and she stood by the window. It was the only way of doing this. And it also really shows her circumstances. So the way she views it, she's like in a luxury prison right now.
Right.
But the bigger thing, big boy, when you listen to this, I've known Wendy Williams for years, and she sounds like the old Wendy Williams. And I have spoken to her for hours and hours and hours. So whatever she was like when she was on a binge with alcohol, she's sober now and she's fine. Yet she's still in a guardianship that is so restrictive, it feels like prison. And it certainly feels that way to her. Why is she still in this guardianship? Why don't they release her? And she has a sober coach. This is a country where people should be free unless they are in dire circumstances. She may have been a few years ago. She's not now. Yet the guardianship is considered indefinite. And they are saying she is permanently disabled. And what they say they've diagnosed her with, frontotemporal dementia, does not make sense, big boy. That disease only gets worse over time.
Right.
She's gotten better.
And that's why when I
better.
see your actual sit down, you guys also discuss alcohol-induced dementia, which they say could get better over time. And do you think, Harvey, that's what we're witnessing now with Wendy?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I interviewed one who does this, and she said that they are very similar and easily misdiagnosed, where you think it's one, but it's the other. With alcohol-induced dementia, you can get better if you stop drinking.
Right.
And with frontotemporal, you never get better. Wendy's better. And it's not just me saying it. I've talked to a half dozen other people who have been on the phone with her for hours. Everybody has the same opinion. Why is Wendy Williams still in a guardianship? We were so concerned for Britney Spears, who had a serious has a serious mental illness, yet they dissolved hers. Wendy seems fine now.
And with
She's
her
not drinking.
Harvey, with her guardianship, it seems extremely tight, but it seems so hands off. You know, it seems like when she was explaining how she's seen, I think, the guardian person like
once a month.
Yeah. If that, and she's been in this facility for about the last 7 months or so, right? But she's been under a guardianship for what, over a year, year and a half?
No, like 2.5 years.
Yeah, and my thing is watching the entire sit down in the episode, it seems like she is a prisoner. It seems like, how can they continue to hold a grown woman that has been so successful, and even her family and specialists are coming out and saying she should be let out of this guardianship? It is so wild. Like, and who is the guardian? Like, who, like, if it's not, if I go through something, I would love for it to be my wife, you know, my son. Who is, like, is this just someone that's court appointed?
Yeah, it's a court-appointed guardian.
My God.
She's actually a lawyer who is the guardian. And get this, that lawyer, this guardian, is suing A&E for the Lifetime documentary that aired a couple of years ago, saying they took advantage of her, saying that they had no right to even shoot her. Here's the thing, big boy. She was the guardian then.
Right.
She never showed up at the set. She never really participated. She said her manager can do it. But the guardian is now saying A&E all A&E did was shoot the reality of it all. Whose fault is it if Wendy should never have done the show in the first place? To me, it's the guardian.
Right.
The guardian could have said no, but the guardian didn't. The guardian could have been there, watched some of the shoots. The guardian didn't. And now the guardian's suing A&E, and some people feel it's like masking her own responsibility.
Yes, I saw that.
And that, you know, maybe the reaction was an overreaction. Let's just put her in a room and lock it up and it won't happen again. But that's not the way human beings should live.
Hey, Harvey.
And honestly, why is she in a guardianship now?
And watching that, it feels like they left her there. Like if she didn't get a phone to actually call relatives, do an interview with the Breakfast Club, the deep dive that you did with TMZ, her voice would have
not be heard.
Not at all.
And you know, big boy, you got to think about this. What about others who are in a similar position,
yes,
but don't have a voice? You know, an elderly man whose relatives want money and they just throw him in a home and just wait for him to die and create guardianships where they can't call the Breakfast Club or you or me. You know, how many other people are going through this? If this can happen to Wendy Williams,
right,
who else is this happening to?
And she's screaming how unfair it is. And when
screaming,
I said, yes,
screaming it.
And when I said,
it's crazy.
When I watched, the one thing that just kind of blew me away is how coherent and how current Wendy Williams is. Harvey, when you took her through Hot Topics, that was the Wendy Williams that we all know and love. She knew, and even with not having all the technical and all the communication that we have, she knew about Trump and was very vocal about that. Even went back to a time when Trump was on her show, so her mind was sharp. When you brought up Diddy, she brought up she knew everything with Diddy. She brought up J-Lo. When you brought up TikTok, and she was honest enough to say, I don't have TikTok. But, you know, so today's Taylor Swift, everything, she was on top of everything, Harvey. And I can see you sitting there and you had this look like, yep, oh my God. Like, what is she doing in there? Because that could have been something that really blew up. And when you see people that say,
and can I just say, big boy?
Please do.
I never told her what those topics were going to be. I hit her cold.
Yeah. And I mean, cold. No disrespect to anybody that I work with here, but I can hit them cold with some of these topics, and you get to a point where you're like, hey, man, we probably need to put one of them in there because they're just not not on top of it.
Well, you know, hey, can I tell you the crazy thing? You know, one of the crazy things. We are privy to some court documents, and the judge in the case at one point said, she keeps saying, you know what I'm saying? And that's evidence. You heard this, right? And that's evidence that her mind is gone, that she struggles to think and find words. Did anybody tell the judge that's what she has always said?
Yes.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
And then when y'all went through the clips where it was so many, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And it was the best Wendy Williams that we have. And I mean, if you did something with me, I have those hang-on things, those crutches, those ramps to get to where I'm going. And even when I sat and I watched the entire doc, she did say, you know what I'm saying? But that is Wendy Williams.
That's
and then
her.
when y'all showed the clips from yesteryear, I was like, oh my God, how do you say someone is impaired when you didn't even study who this person is?
Exactly. That is the point. That is the point. She is a very unique communicator.
Yes.
And it makes her really popular and effective. She communicates differently than a lot of people. She'll bounce back and forth, but always end up kind of completing the circle.
Right.
And that's Wendy. That's what she's always been. And so rather than looking at her baseline, it seems like they're saying, oh, well, this is really weird and off. So she must have dementia.
Right.
No, she is Wendy Williams. This is the woman that became famous and rich and successful and vibrant. And it's the same woman, I feel, that we're seeing now. And I'm not the only one. Everybody I've talked to says the same thing.
I see.
The ones that aren't are the Guardian and the Judge.
When I saw the A&E, what was that? Was it a 4-part special that they did on
It was a
Wendy?
4-part series.
When you saw the 4-part series on A&E, at that time, Harvey, were you concerned for Wendy Williams?
Yes.
Same.
And I felt that a guardianship was necessary when I saw
Same.
that. So, look, it could be, I feel it was necessary back then. Okay. Times have changed. She's okay now. Why is she in a guardianship? They're not meant to be for the rest of your life if somebody gets better, and she's better. They're saying she's not, but she's better. And finally, the Guardian got embarrassed enough that they said, okay, we'll do a reevaluation, but we feel it's going to be the same thing. Well, how do they know that? They talk to her once a month. I've talked to her hours and hours and hours on end for the last month. So how are they saying, oh, yeah, it's going to be the same diagnosis? They're not doctors, and they barely talk to her. So how do they reach that conclusion unless that's the conclusion they want?
Do you feel like this has been a slippery slope since her son Kevin and the financial, kind of playing with the money? And at some point it was like, okay, well, she needs a guardian because the money's being taken. Wells Fargo kind of go and say, we need a guardian to make sure that your account is right. And then from there, Harvey, it just seemed like it went into a slippery slope that she can't get out of.
I couldn't put it better. That's exactly what happened. That it started because somebody was pulling money out of her account and she didn't have access to a phone. She says her son took her phone away and that somebody was taking money. And Wells Fargo went in and said, we want to protect our client, so we want a guardianship over her money. That somehow became a guardianship over her person. And again, I don't think that was a bad idea back then because of the alcohol. But it's different now. And she's not sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
Right.
And she's fine now. She's rehabilitated now. She is sober now. How do you are you going to lock up every alcoholic? And how about the ones who fall off the wagon, and most do? Are you going to lock them up and put them in a guardianship? We don't do that. Why are we doing it to Wendy Williams?
And Harvey, you've had enough conversation with her where it's been hours. So it wasn't like Wendy Williams could send her, the representative to answer the questions right. And
hours.
So
let me tell you something, big boy. The reality is the conversations I've had with her without a camera are even more lucid than this because she wanted to get everything out and she knew there was a limited amount of time. So the numerous conversations I've had with her where I'm just talking to her on the phone, she's even more lucid, sharper, more focused because she's not trying to get everything out in a compressed period of time.
It seemed like this right here, whatever word you use, crazy, this right here could drive you insane. To know, like, she couldn't walk downstairs.
Yeah, can you imagine being locked in we've all did it during the pandemic. She's in one room. She can't go out. There's a key to the elevator. They don't let her out. She can't even go down to the third floor gym most of the time. They're just keeping her in a room. Think about that. Day after day, night after night, eating your meals in this one room. I'm shocked at how sane she is.
Yeah. Yes.
I would go insane.
Yes. And once again, we're now available on Tubi right now because this is one of those, man, where I was watching this and I was like, Harvey, the world got to see this. And not just because it's Wendy Williams. For one, it's sad that it's happening to Wendy Williams. But like we were saying, there's got to be so many people that's in that same position that don't have the voice. Because if you can cut the Wendy Williams voice, then, man, she got to be the voice of the voiceless right now. And I think that's what we're doing as well. When I saw the A&E special, I was like, and personally, and maybe you too, Harvey, I was getting text messages from Wendy around that time. She was sending me like pictures of cats. Like I was concerned about her. Yeah. But now that I've watched this, I'm like, she is sharp, just like the Wendy Williams that I've known for years, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is scary because this can happen to you and anyone behind you, me and anyone in this room. It can happen because Wendy she probably thought it would never happen to her. And now people are really starting to speak out like, dude, this is really unfair. And just if anybody that's in a position that could just take a look at it, all they have to do, Harvey, is sit down and watch the hour that you did. Just watch the hour and tell me if she still need to be under this guardianship.
Yeah, it's shocking to me. I hope people watch this because there needs to be a movement, because I don't see right now the judge or the guardian bending at all. And, you know, for them to say, we don't think the diagnosis is going to be any different. How do they know that? Why would they say something like that?
Yeah.
So it feels to me like they just want to keep her in this. And that's why I want people to see this.
And if it comes down to, you know what I'm saying, man,
But
half of
no
hip-hop,
kidding.
half of
No
hip-hop is
kidding.
going to be locked up.
No kidding.
Yeah, you
No
know what I'm
kidding.
saying? Like,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Exactly.
Hey,
Exactly.
Just real quick, Harvey, I want to ask you about the Kanye ex.
Sorry.
Tell me how you. He said sorry.
That's pretty much how I feel.
Dude, it was days of the most out there capital letter rants. Did you think that it would go on for as long as it did, Harvey, and the things that were coming out of Kanye's fingers and out of his brain and out of his mouth?
Well, you know, at a point, look, he may be going through another episode, and that may well be the case. But now when you start looking back, every time he goes through one of these episodes, Hitler surfaces, Nazis surface. It's the same drill. And I got to say, at a point, you got to take this guy at his word that he is embracing Hitler, he is embracing Nazis, he is anti-Semitic. And I don't know how else to look at it. That at a point, do you it's just Kanye being Kanye.
Right.
I mean, how many times do we have to see this and hear it before somebody says, okay, that's who he is? And I think that's who he is. I mean, he designed this T-shirt. He marketed this T-shirt. He bought a Super Bowl ad for this T-shirt with a Nazi emblem on it with a swastika. He talks about loving Hitler, loving the Nazis. He's done this for years. I mean, why are we discounting this every time it happens? I mean, that's who he is.
Mm-hmm. Amen. And we already not like the Trump era is here. We're seeing so much now. Harvey, are you concerned with the next 4 years and on?
I am so alarmed that there are signals that the Trump administration is going to deny judicial review of what they do. If that happens, democracy is over. Done. Over. We are in a full autocratic dictatorship.
Yes, sir.
No matter what has happened over the years. And I will say that I think the Democrats are at fault too, because even if you disagree, and a lot of people do, with the Supreme Court's ruling on abortion, do not delegitimize the Supreme Court of the United States, because it opens the door for others to say, well, when we disagree, we'll just ignore them too. And I think you can disagree, but you have to follow the rule of law. And when a judge says something's unconstitutional, you can't blow it off, because if you blow it off, where are we? We're in a dictatorship. And, I guess then the question is, does half of America want to live under a dictatorship? I hope the answer to that is no. But if we allow any administration to ignore the courts, we're done. We're done.
Man, Harvey, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, bro. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. And for those out there, TMZ is 30 mile zone. I probably may do a TMZ where I'll be like in Tahiti mile zone. And just get up and get out, and I'll pick you up from Tahiti or something like that. But once again,
I'm gonna be in Italy.
Okay, well, I'll be there with you. Wherever you go, I'm going. But now, thank you, Harvey, for always checking in. And once again, give me the exact title of this great sit down with Wendy Williams again.
It is called Saving Wendy. It is free on Tubi. It's streaming right now.
And once again, I had a chance to watch it, man. And Harvey, such great work, bro. And thank you also for being a voice of the voiceless as well, Harvey. And thank you for always checking in with the neighborhood.
Really appreciate it, Big Boy. Love being on.
Love having you on. Harvey Levin right there, man. Big Boy's Neighborhood.